What's good, Horror Horde? It's your boy Horror Gamer here, back with another movie review for you. And today is actually a special request kind of day. I got a buddy of mine that I met on Xbox, pretty cool guy. His name is Happiness Lies, and he asked me to review Bang, Annabelle. So, before I get started with the review, just know, as always, your boy Horror Gamer's review has spoilers all day, every day. And if you haven't seen this movie, pause the video, check the movie out, come back for the review, leave a comment in the comment section, a like, click that little bell so you get constant updates on every upload I do, because every day is a new upload, daily uploads. So here we go. So basically, Annabelle's the story of this doll that really exists, Annabelle, that Ed and Lorraine Warren have in their museum. It's originally a Raggedy Ann doll, but of course Hollywood had to make it look so scary. So anyway, the movie starts off like The Conjuring kind of did, where Ed and Lorraine Warren are interviewing these two girls who live in this apartment who have the doll, and how the doll's doing this crazy stuff, you know, like moving slightly and then, you know, coloring on the walls and stuff. And then they're talking about how you let the demon in, and then it cuts to a picture of Annabelle just looking at the screen, and then the title screen. And then after that, it cuts to the scene where it's this married couple who's getting ready to have a baby. You know, your all-American couple, good life, beautiful home, happy, you know, fairy tale kind of family here. Well, you know, they're starting to worry because the baby's coming, so the husband makes a stupid comment that, you know, his life is really going to change when this baby gets here, and he gets his wife pissed off. So she walks away, goes into the nursery. He comes in, he knows he fucked up, so he gives her this present that he's been saving until the baby was born, but he decided, you know what, let me give it to her now. So he puts his big box out, she opens it, and it's the Annabelle doll, but it's to a collection that she already had, and she's been looking for it, and he found it, you know, hero saves the day, whatever. So cut to that night, they're sleeping, and then all of a sudden she hears a fucking scream from her neighbor's next door neighbor's house. She wakes up her husband. I think I heard a scream. He's like, okay, let me go check it out. She's like, well, should I call 911? He's like, well, let me check it out first, because you don't know if you heard a scream. You think you heard a scream. So he goes over to checks it out, and here's the part that gets me, okay? She follows him to the front door. She's standing there waiting for him. Then she decides, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and walk over and see if he's okay. And leaves the fucking door wide open. Well, you just heard a scream coming from your neighbor's house. Why would you leave your porch, for one, and for two, if you did, why the fuck did you leave your front door wide open so somebody could just walk in? Come on. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Well, anyway, that's not here nor there. So she walks over, her husband comes running out saying, call the ambulance. He's covered in blood. She's freaking out. He's like, it's not my blood. Call the ambulance. Get him over here. So she runs into her house, calls 911. As she's calling 911, you can see behind her that there's this fucking crazy woman just walking behind her into the nursery. So she gets done calling 911, and she runs into her room to get, I guess, her jacket, because she's going to go back over. And as she goes into her room, the crazy woman comes walking out of the nursery holding Annabelle. And, you know, she has her back turned so she doesn't see her yet. So she grabs her coat, puts it on, turns around, and she hears, I like your dolls. And her eyes get all wide, and she's like, please, just leave, take what you want, get out, just get out. And then while she's saying that, the crazy woman's fucking boyfriend comes from behind her, behind the main character, and stabs her in the stomach. She's pregnant. So she's laying there, you know, bleeding, and her husband runs in, bum rushes the dude, beats the piss out of him. Crazy girl picks up the knife and gets ready to go at her. He tackles her and starts slamming, you know what I mean, getting her off. And then here come the cops. Cops shoot the crazy guy who stabbed the woman, and then the girl, the crazy lady, is in the room with the door, in the nursery with the door locked. And the cops get the door open, and I guess she had slit her own throat. And she's sitting there with her head down, bleeding, and holding Annabelle. So it cuts to this slow-mo kind of style of filming where they're trying to get her out of the house to get her to the hospital because she'd just been stabbed. and they pan over to the crazy girl again with her head down, and she's bleeding, and then a drop of blood lands on Annabelle and goes into her eye, and the eye like kind of soaks it up. So I guess that's like a soul transfer or whatever that just happened. But anyway, you fast forward a little bit. The woman who got stabbed, the baby makes it. Okay, the baby's fine, but she has to be put on bed rest. So she's put on bed rest, and when they get home, crazy shit starts happening at night. Like unexplainable stuff like noises, and the one night they were sleeping and the sewing machine comes on by itself and just is going really fast. So the husband unplugs it. So the next day, he has to go to this big important meeting, and he had bought her some like popcorn that you cook on the stove, and he was going to make her some because she was watching TV and she's on bed rest, but she ended up falling asleep. So he just turns the burner off and leaves it there. And so fast forward a little bit, she's sitting there in her room doing a little bit of sewing, and then all of a sudden all the burners on the stove turn on and that popcorn's still on there. So she's sitting there, she doesn't hear the popcorn popping and making, but it is, and it's getting real big and real, and it's getting ready to burst, and she don't hear it because she's sewing. Well, the popcorn blows up. It starts catching it, and the butter from inside the popcorn starts catching everything on fire. So she's sitting there, and all of a sudden she smells smoke, and she runs out. Her kitchen's just engulfed in flames. So she turns around to try to get out. When she does, she trips over the chair and lands on her stomach. And so she's laying there, and she starts crawling to the door to get out, and then all of a sudden, this unseen force fucking grabs her by the ankle and yanks her back into the house. And then she's like, trying to crawl. She don't know what it is. And then the neighbors come in and pull her out to safety. And then they cut to this, like, again, another slow-mo kind of film style where the husband's running through the hospital to get to her. And he gets to her and he's like, I'm so sorry I wasn't here. And she's like, look behind you. And here she had the baby. So fast forward a little bit. She said, the house is cursed. I don't want to live there anymore. And he's like, you don't have to go back there ever again. So they moved to Pasadena, California, in this big, like, apartment duplex complex thing. And they're getting ready to go to church. And as they go to church, they talk to the priest, and he says, can I take your picture? I always take pictures of my new members, and put it on the visitor wall. So he takes the picture and he starts talking to her about everything. And she's like, I gotta go, I got unpacking to do. So she gets home and she starts unpacking, and she unpacks Annabelle, which doesn't seem like much, but here's the thing. Her husband had threw away Annabelle before they left. And she's like, well, it must have got mixed up in the fire. He's like, well, give it back to me, I'm gonna go throw her away. She's like, no, you gave it to me as a present, I'm gonna keep her. Okay, so she ends up keeping her, and then this is when all the fucked up shit starts to happen. So she decides, she's sitting there, she's watching TV, and she starts dozing off. And then all of a sudden, in the back, you see a fucking woman. You see Annabelle, a woman, and then she walks back, and then she comes back into the frame in front of the camera, and the baby's sleeping, and she looks down at the baby, and the baby starts screaming. So she gets up, goes for a little walk, get out, see the sights and stuff. It's a new place. And she is going down, and she's getting ready to leave, and there's two little kids playing on the steps. One's coloring and one's playing with a doll. And she's trying to talk to these kids, and the kids like, well, we don't talk to strangers. Well, she tells the kids, maybe someday we can be friends. So she leaves, and she goes to the bookstore, and she's standing outside the bookstore looking at some of the books, and one catches her eye, and then the owner of the bookstore comes out and actually gives her this book that was her daughter's favorite when she was a baby, and she wanted to give it to the lady as, like, I guess, a welcome to the neighborhood gift. And, they ended up becoming friends, which pays off for the main character at the end of this review, and I'll tell you that shortly. But then, she finds out later in the film that the neighbor's daughter was the one who killed them and her estranged boyfriend. They were in this cult, and they were making blood sacrifices to summon this demon. Okay? And then I guess when she slit her throat, and the blood in the Annabelle that brought this demon out. So you know, she comes back from her walk, and she sees a drawing on the ground that the little boy drew. She's like, oh, it's so cute, look what they left for us. And it's, you know, a picture of her pushing the baby stroller on a bright sunny day. So she goes up to the next steps, and there's another one, same picture. And she goes up to another step, and there's a picture, but this time there's a truck in the background. She goes up a little more, and then she sees another piece of paper, picks it up, same picture, but the truck's a little closer. And then when she gets to a door, another piece of paper falls from the, I guess, the floor above her, and she looks, and the truck had run over the baby in the picture. So she tells her husband, says, we should tell these people, and he's like, nah, well, you know, they're kids with an overactive imagination. Let's not make nothing big of it. So they decide they're going to have a romantic dinner and after work the next day, and, you know, just have an adult conversation. So she's sitting there waiting for him to come home. Obviously, he doesn't make dinner because he's at work or whatever. And so she starts cleaning up everything, and she had music playing in the background. She went and she took the music off the record player, and she's sitting there, and all of a sudden the music comes back on. So she walks in, takes the music off the music player again, and looks over. And when she looks over this time, in the nursery, there's a little girl standing and looking at her right in the face. Not saying nothing, just standing there. And then all of a sudden the door that she's standing in her room starts going shut. And as it's doing that, the little girl runs towards the door, and it swings it open. When it swings open, it's a fucking adult. It's Annabelle, the crazy girl. And she's running towards her, and she's freaking out and stuff, and she disappears. And she's like, what the fuck's going on? So fast forward a little bit, she decides she has to go up to this the storage area and get some things out. And so she goes up to the storage area, and it's really dark, so she has a flashlight. She's in there. All of a sudden, this stroller comes in the background and stops, and you can hear a baby screaming. And she looks over, and she starts walking to this stroller, and she does, the crying's getting louder and louder and louder. And she walks up and she looks, and there's a bloody sheet in this stroller. And she goes to pick it up, and there's nothing there. But then all of a sudden, she looks up, and this black demon starts forming out of nowhere. So she runs to the elevator to get out. And as she's getting out, the elevator won't move. The doors won't shut or nothing. And she finally gets the doors shut, and the elevator goes down. And when it opens back up, she's back in the fucking storage area. So she runs, and she runs down the steps and into her apartment. Okay? She's in her apartment. She's freaking out. Baby's freaking out. Okay? So she's sitting there holding the baby, patting it on the back, saying, everything's okay, everything's okay. And Annabelle's sitting in the corner. Well, all of a sudden, Annabelle stands up. And standing there, she looks over. And then Annabelle starts coming off the ground. And stops. And then her head goes like this. And it's the black fucking demon head that was upstairs. And oh, bro, that was creepy. She fucking runs out the house screaming. And her husband comes and says, you know, it's okay, we can call somebody. So they end up calling the priest to come pick up Annabelle. And when he does, you know, he says, we'll take it to the church, you know, and be done with this. So he's taking her to the church, and he's driving, and he's listening to the radio. And all of a sudden, the radio starts getting really messed up. And then on the radio says, you'll repent for your sins. And he's like, what? Well, anyway, he gets to the church, and he takes Annabelle out. And he's walking up to the church, and they show an inside picture of the car, and there's the ghost of Annabelle Higgins sitting in the car. And he goes up to the church door, and as he opens the door to go in, a force fucking blows it back. And he hits his head on the sidewalk, and he's laying there bleeding. And then the ghost of Annabelle Higgins comes and picks up the doll and walks away. Freaky, right? Yeah, that's pretty freaky. So, the husband goes and visits the priest in the hospital, saying, what happened? He said, the doll is evil. There's something evil attached to this doll. You have to get your family, and you have to get it away from this doll. Because this doll, whatever is possessing this doll, wants your daughter's soul. So He's trying to rush back to the house to get the family, and there's the mom and the lady from the bookstore are sitting there having coffee, and all of a sudden you hear boom, 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 boom. She opens the door, or she looks in the peephole, and there's the priest standing there, but his back's turned towards the peephole. So she's like, "Father, hello," and she puts his hand on his shoulder, and when she does, he starts screaming, "You will all pay for your sins," and his eyes are all black, and his face looks really demonic. She slams the door shut, and she runs to go get the baby. But when she does, the baby's missing. But she can hear the baby in the background. And she's freaking out. She's like, "I want my baby back." And she sees Annabelle there. And she picks up Annabelle and starts smacking her against the fucking crib, hitting her against the wall, and throws her across the room. And then after she does that, she looks where Annabelle had been laying, and there was her baby, laying there dead. And she's starting to freak out and scream, "No, no, 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 this can't be." And she's holding the baby, screaming and crying, and all of a sudden, she hears the baby laughing, and she looks down, and it's a different doll. And she grabs the baby doll and throws it. And then she walks into the nursery, and on the wall, written in red crayon, says, "Your soul for hers." So she knows what she has to do. So she grabs Annabelle. She walks over to the window, and she's getting ready to jump out, and her husband stops her and says, "Honey, what are you doing?" She's like, "This is the only way we can get our baby back." And he's like, no, there's another way, there's another way. She's like, "Stay away. I know what I'm doing. I'm going to do this." So she turns around, she gets ready to jump, and as she does, her husband comes and grabs her and pulls her in. Okay? And then the woman who owns the bookstore is, just looking around and contemplating and just pondering. And she looks at them and tells them, "My daughter died at a young age, and this is my way of making it right." She picks up Annabelle and she jumps out the window, sacrificing herself for them so they can have their baby. And after she does that, lo and behold, you look over and the baby's sitting there in the crib. So she had made the blood sacrifice needed for them to have their baby back, which is, let me tell you something, that is the most selfless thing I've ever seen. Kudos to that woman. I know it's a movie, but kudos to that woman. Anyway, so happy ending. They go to church, a couple weeks later. The father's okay, they talk about it. They say, everything's good and the future's looking bright. Okay? And then you fast forward a little bit. It gets ready to get to the ending credit scene. Everything's all happy and go lucky. And then they show a picture of Annabelle. And she's sitting on a shelf in an antique store, and this lady walks up and says, "Oh my God, that doll's so beautiful." She ends up buying Annabelle and passing the curse to the next. And then right before the ending credits, you see Annabelle sitting in a glass case in the Warrens' basement, which in real life she's there to this day. If you don't believe me, look it up. Look up Annabelle, and she don't look like she does in the movie. She's a Raggedy Ann doll that's possessed by a demon. They say that she's really possessed and you don't want to mess with her. They actually have priests come in and bless Annabelle and all the other things because it's cursed objects. So, with that being said, that's Annabelle in a nutshell. A decent movie, not one of the best. If I'd have to give it a rating, I'd give it a 7.9 out of 10. There was a lot missing, especially because this had followed The Conjuring, and The Conjuring was Conjuring was on point. That's another one that I'm going to have to get back with y'all. But Annabelle was good, but it needed some work. So 7.9 out of 10, not the worst movie I've ever seen, not the best, but decent. And like I said at the beginning of the video, this was a special request for my boy Happiness Lies. Bro, I just want to thank you so much for the support. You've been supportive, non-stop, commenting on videos, in the Xbox Club. You've been doing your thing, and I thank you so much for your support, bro. And this is my way of thanking you. So keep it up, man. Keep up the support. I appreciate it. And as for all you from my horror horde, I love y'all as always. Y'all mean a lot to me. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Thank you to all the new people who subscribe every day. It means the world to me. And like I always tell you, Horror Horde, until next time, this is your boy Horror Gamer saying, Don't fear the dark. Embrace it.